Under the vast sky of the African savanna, where the horizon seemed to fade into infinity, lived Leo, a lion of majestic stature. His golden mane reflected the sunlight, but his heart was far from sharing the same brilliance. Despite being called the king of the jungle, he carried an invisible weight, the result of countless battles he had fought throughout his life. The savannah, with its wild beauty, was also a stage for relentless challenges. The nights brought the cold and the distant echo of predators, while the days offered tireless battles for survival. Leo felt weaker with each passing day. Hunger pressed on him like an old enemy that never left, and loneliness, though silent, roared louder than any beast. He no longer saw the point in continuing to fight. The gazelles escaped more often, and the strength to run seemed to disappear from his paws. One particularly gray afternoon, he sought refuge under the comforting shade of a large tree. There, the silence was profound, but inside Leo, a storm of thoughts consumed him. He questioned his place in the world, the purpose of his struggles, and whether, in the end, he was still worthy of being called king. It was under that tree, in the vastness of the savannah, that his journey of transformation began. Leo didn't know it yet, but unexpected forces and words filled with wisdom were about to change the course of his story. As Leo sat there, absorbed in his own thoughts, a peculiar figure appeared before him. A goat, with its curved horns and keen gaze, approached him slowly, as if knowing that he was vulnerable, ready to listen to anything. She stopped in front of Leo, staring at him with an expression that mixed curiosity and disdain. "Why so downcast, king of the forest?" the goat asked, her voice dripping with irony more than genuine concern. "The hardships of life are for the weak, those who lack the willpower to overcome obstacles. You, who call yourself king, should be stronger." The goat's words pierced Leo like sharp arrows. Each sentence seemed to strike the most fragile part of his soul, as if his inner doubts were now confirmed by this impudent creature. Leo lowered his head, the weight of her words becoming heavier than any battle he had ever faced. "Maybe you're right," he murmured, his voice filled with disillusionment. "Maybe I'm not strong enough." The goat smiled, a cruel and satisfied smile, as though she had gained something. She turned and walked away slowly, leaving Leo more dejected than before. He looked down at the ground, lost in his own doubts. How could he be the king of the savannah if he couldn't even keep hope alive within himself? The goat's words had fed the darkness in his heart, further widening the gap between him and his inner strength. The world seemed increasingly distant and hostile. But in the midst of that deep despair, Leo still didn't know that a new light was about to appear. As Leo remained there, submerged in his own doubts, something unexpected happened. A gentle breeze swept through the savannah, carrying with it a soft sound, almost like a whisper from nature itself. Leo lifted his head, his eyes still full of sadness, but what he saw before him made his soul tremble. A majestic owl with golden feathers and penetrating eyes landed gently on a nearby tree. The owl observed the lion with a deep, serene gaze. She didn't hurry, as if knowing that Leo's pain needed to be understood before it could be eased. "Don't be discouraged by the words of the goat," the owl said in a calm, soothing voice, as though speaking directly to Leo's heart. "True strength doesn't come only from physical bravery, but from perseverance and wisdom." Leo lifted his head, feeling a faint thread of hope beginning to grow within him. "But how can I go on? The hardship seemed too great for me to face. Hunting is becoming harder. Loneliness consumes me, and hunger weakens me, he asked, his voice trembling, filled with uncertainty. The owl, with her ancient wisdom, looked at him gently and patiently. Each obstacle you face makes you stronger, Leo. Each step, each difficulty is an opportunity to learn. Don't forget that true strength comes when you're able to learn from your mistakes, to seek help when needed, and above all, to never give up on your dreams. The owl's words resonated deep within Leo. He felt his soul reignite, as if a long, dormant fire was being rekindled. He knew that the journey would still be long and full of challenges, but for the first time in a long time, he believed that he could overcome them. I won't give up, Leo said, a new determination rising in his chest. I will keep going, even if the path is difficult. I'll learn from each mistake and become stronger. The owl looked at him with approval. That's right, Leo. It's not about being the strongest, but about being able to rise again, no matter how many times you fall. Wisdom and strength are within you. Trust in them. With a soft flap of her wings, the owl flew away, but her words continued to echo in Leo's mind. He looked toward the horizon with renewed energy, feeling that, despite everything, he was no longer alone. The light of the owl's wisdom shone in his heart, reigniting the flame of hope that should never have been extinguished. With his spirit renewed by the wisdom of the owl, Leo continued his journey across the savannah. The path was far from easy, but with each step, he felt the inner strength beginning to grow. The owl's words became his allies, guiding him with calmness through the adversities that arose. One morning, while Leo moved silently through the savannah in search of food, he noticed a group of hyenas approaching. They were hungry, their malicious eyes fixed on the prey that Leo had managed to capture. Without hesitation, the hyenas advanced, attempting to steal the lion's kill. Leo's fight instinct kicked in immediately, but instead of succumbing to anger or despair, he remembered the owl's words. He needed to be wise, not just strong. Don't give in to impulse, the owl's voice echoed in his mind. Wisdom comes from controlling your emotions and using your mind as much as your body. Leo took a deep breath, his muscles tense. Instead of attacking blindly, he analyzed the situation. Watching the hyenas, he realized they were more inclined to threaten than to actually fight. With a firm and imposing roar, Leo stood before them, showing his strength and demanding respect. The hyenas hesitated for a moment and soon backed away, recognizing the lion's power. Leo's victory didn't come from a violent confrontation, but from his confidence in his own strength and wisdom in handling the situation. But life's lessons didn't stop there. Days later, a fierce storm descended upon the savannah. The wind howled, the trees bent under the weight of the torrential rain, and Leo, seeking shelter, found himself completely lost. He took refuge in a small cave, but the solitude of that night was immense. The storm seemed to symbolize the torments in his heart. In the silence of the cave, Leo reflected on his journey up until that point. The owl's words echoed in his mind, and he realized that just like the storm, the tough moments would also pass. What mattered was his ability to resist, to stay strong in the face of adversity. Loneliness was not permanent. He had learned to listen to himself, to connect with his own inner strength. The next morning, when the storm finally subsided, Leo left the cave and looked at the clear, bright sky. Nature seemed renewed, and so did he. With each difficulty he faced, Leo realized he was becoming stronger, not only physically, but in his mind and spirit. Each obstacle became an opportunity to learn, a step closer to his true potential. The lion moved forward, now with more confidence in his ability to overcome any challenge. He knew his journey was far from over, but he was ready for whatever the road ahead held. And with the wisdom gained from the trials he had faced, Leo felt more prepared than ever for the future. Leo's journey took him farther and farther from the familiar openness of the savannah, where he used to hunt and live. In his quest for food, the lion found himself in a dense, dark forest, a place where the sun barely touched the ground and the air was thick with the moisture of damp earth. Leo, tired and somewhat worn, wandered among the trees, searching for an exit. It was then that an unusual sound interrupted his thoughts. The sound was low, but distinct, the heavy dragging of a creature. Leo followed the sound with watchful eyes until he saw the source, a giant turtle with a sturdy shell and slow movements. She was dragging herself across the ground, looking like a creature that had seen and lived through too much. Curious, Leo approached cautiously and found the turtle looking at him tiredly, as though she had witnessed all the dilemmas of life. "What brings you to these lands, young lion?" the turtle asked in a hoarse voice, devoid of enthusiasm. Leo, polite and always willing to learn, explained that he was lost, in search of food and answers. The lion had grown accustomed to the struggle for survival, but something in his heart still felt empty, a deep questioning about the reason for all the hardship. The turtle, with a heavy sigh, spoke words that pierced Leo's mind like a poisoned arrow. "The search for food, a hard and thankless task," said the turtle. "Why bother so much? Life is a series of disappointments, moments that break us down. What you're looking for is an illusion, and soon you'll see that everything you strive to achieve will dissolve in the face of harsh reality." The turtle's words affected Leo more than he would like to admit. At first, he tried to push the idea away, but something within him began to waver. He had always believed that struggle, perseverance, and effort were the paths to reward. But now, listening to the turtle, he wondered, perhaps life really was as bitter and difficult as she described. What more could he expect from it? "But life is not just that," Leo protested, trying to cling to a spark of hope. "There are so many good things. The beauty of nature, the joy of friendship, the satisfaction of a job well done. I believe it's worth fighting for these things." The turtle let out a soft, sad laugh. "You're young and naive," she said. "With time, you'll see that life is a series of disappointments. Better to give up now before the weight of disillusionment destroys you." Leo fell silent, absorbing the turtle's words, which echoed inside him like a weight. He wondered if she was right, if life really was that cruel and meaningless. Maybe he was just fooling himself, but still, a part of him resisted. He couldn't accept that his existence was just a series of blows from fate. "Thank you for your words," Leo finally replied, his voice firm, though still a little shaken. "But I disagree. Life is a gift, and each day is a new chance to learn, grow, and change. I will not give up on my dreams." The turtle watched the lion for a moment, her tired eyes reflecting an expression of surprise. For a brief instant, it seemed as though she questioned her own worldview. However, without saying anything further, she turned and began to crawl slowly away, disappearing into the darkness of the forest. Leo stood there, immersed in his own thoughts. The weight of the turtle's words still followed him, but now he felt an inner flame resisting. He knew the journey wouldn't be easy. that the challenges would be immense, but he was not willing to give in to despair. Life, for him, was still something to be lived fully with all its joys and sorrows. Each moment an opportunity to learn, each difficulty an invitation to grow. As he continued on his path through the forest, Leo reaffirmed his decision. He would not abandon his dreams. Even though the weight of doubt followed him, he knew there was something deeper driving him, something that couldn't be explained by the words of a turtle or by the hardships of the world. Life was still worth it, and he was determined to prove that to himself. Leo's journey seemed more and more arduous. The weight of loneliness and the hardships of the savannah had left him exhausted, both physically and spiritually. On a particularly dark day, when discouragement seemed to finally take hold of his being, Leo found himself lost in a dark and damp cave. The cold seeped into his bones, and doubt overtook his mind. He questioned the purpose of all this struggle. Why did he have to face so many difficulties? Was it worth it to keep going? With his head down and his heart heavy, Leo gave in to despair. He sat in the darkness of the cave, as if each shadow surrounding him was a reflection of the uncertainties within. Life to him seemed like an endless sequence of challenges. Each step forward was just another burden he carried. His strength was waning, and for the first time, Leo wondered if he should give up. It was then, in the deep silence of the cave, that a soft and celestial light began to shine, cutting through the darkness around him. Leo, surprised, raised his head and saw a figure before him, a presence so radiant that its light seemed to warm his soul, dispelling the shadows of doubt. It was an angel with wings white as snow and a serene smile on its face. It radiated a peace that Leo had never experienced. The angel looked at him with eyes full of compassion and spoke in a soft, reassuring voice. "Do not give up, Leo. Life is a long and difficult journey, but it is full of rewards for those who persevere." The angel's words penetrated Leo's heart like a fresh breeze, and for the first time in days, he felt a spark of hope ignite within him. He looked at the angel, confused, still not fully understanding the reason for so much suffering. "But why me?" he asked. "Why do I have to face so many obstacles and difficulties? Wouldn't it be easier to just give up?" The angel smiled again, a smile full of wisdom and kindness. "Because you are strong, Leo. You have the heart of a lion and the will of a true warrior. The challenges you face are tests to make you even stronger and wiser. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow." Leo pondered these words for a long moment. He knew the angel was right, but doubt still hovered over his mind. He didn't want to be weak. He didn't want to be the lion who gave up in the face of difficulty, but the battles seemed endless, and he feared his strength was running out. The angel, sensing Leo's internal struggle, approached him and gently touched his forehead with the tip of his finger. "Trust in God, Leo," he said in a serene voice. "God resides within you. Just listen to him carefully and follow his guidance. He will lead you through all the storms." The angel's words touched Leo's heart in a deep way. He felt a wave of peace flood his being, as if the very celestial light had touched his soul. The angel then disappeared like a soft breeze, but the light he had left inside Leo continued to shine. Leo rose from the cave, renewed and strengthened. He knew there were still many challenges ahead, but now he was ready to face them with his head held high. The confidence in himself and the inner strength the angel had awakened in his heart would guide him. He was no longer alone. He knew that, with faith in God and the wisdom within him, he could overcome any obstacle. With firm steps, Leo left the cave and continued on his way, now with a clarity and determination he hadn't felt before. He understood that difficulties were part of the journey, but that through them he could grow and become the lion he had always known he could be. The angel's light still shone in his heart, and he knew that as long as he kept faith and courage, nothing could stop his journey. The savannah, with its vast landscapes and relentless challenges, was never an easy place for a lion like Leo. Throughout his journey, he faced the worst moments of loneliness and doubt, saw his strength tested in unimaginable ways, and had his heart wounded by the harsh words of those who crossed his path. But something had changed within Leo. He was no longer the defeated lion who had taken refuge in the shade of a tree, lost in his dark thoughts. He had been shaped, refined by the encounters and lessons life had brought him. Through the wisdom of the owl, the severity of the turtle, and the light of the angel, Leo discovered that true strength is not found only in physical bravery, but in inner wisdom, faith, and perseverance. Every challenge he faced, from the hungry hyenas to the storm that nearly broke him, served as a test to strengthen his spirit. The savannah was still relentless, but now Leo knew that adversities were not enemies to be feared, but masters teaching him to grow. He had learned to turn fear into courage, loneliness into introspection, and pain into wisdom. Every step he took now was imbued with the confidence he had found within himself, with the understanding that he was not alone. The light of faith and hope illuminated his path, guiding him through life's uncertain roads. Leo had not only overcome the challenges, but had incorporated them into his being, becoming stronger and wiser with every trial. He had learned to see difficulties not as obstacles, but as opportunities to improve, to connect with something greater and deeper. He knew that no matter how difficult the road ahead, the key to overcoming it lay in his faith, his perseverance, and the trust he now placed in God and his own inner strength. Looking at the horizon of the savannah, Leo saw the vastness of life before him, and for the first time, he was not afraid. He knew that the challenges would never cease, but he also knew that true victory did not lie in avoiding difficulties, but in facing them with courage, wisdom, and faith. And so Leo moved forward no longer just as a lion, but as a transformed lion, capable of fighting with a full heart and an invincible spirit, ready to write his own destiny with the claws of courage and the paws of determination. Leo's journey was just beginning, but now he walked with the certainty that whatever the challenge, he would be able to overcome it, guided by the inner strength that had always resided within him. Just like Leo, many of us find ourselves in moments of discouragement, facing challenges that seem insurmountable. Sometimes life forces us to deal with unexpected difficulties, losses, frustrations, loneliness, and the weight of hurtful words. And just like the lion, we ask ourselves, why all this? How can we move forward when everything seems lost? Leo's journey teaches us that even in the darkest hours, there is always a light waiting for us. He could have given in to despair, letting himself be consumed by criticism, pain, and doubt. But as we learn from him, true strength doesn't come just from our physical endurance or invincible appearance, but from our ability to look within ourselves and find the power that God has placed in our hearts. When life challenges us, it's important to remember that we are not alone. God works in the most difficult moments of our lives, often when we need Him the most. Just as the owl appeared to Leo with wisdom and encouragement, God sends us signs, friends, words, and moments of reflection that help us renew our hope. As the angel told Leo, the struggle is hard, but it has a purpose to make us stronger, wiser, and more connected to the divine. Every obstacle we encounter can be an opportunity to grow if we allow ourselves to learn from it, trust in God, and never give up. Perseverance doesn't mean ignoring the difficulties, but having faith that with every step, we are being guided by a greater force. In moments of weakness, like the lion seeking refuge in the cave, it's essential to remember that God's light never fades. It shines in the darkest moments, guiding us out of the shadows even when we cannot see the way ahead. In our own journeys, we may sometimes feel small in the face of the storms we endure. But just like Leo, we must remember that within each of us lies an immense strength, capable of transforming difficulties into lessons and fear into courage. We must trust that God, in His infinite wisdom, is with us, shaping us to become more than we ever imagined we could be. No matter how hard the path may be, the certainty is that with faith and perseverance, nothing is impossible. As we look at our own lives, may we see, just as Leo saw, that the journey is never in vain. It teaches us, molds us, and transforms us. And in the end, we will be stronger, wiser, and better prepared to face the challenges ahead, knowing that we are never alone and that the divine presence guides, supports, and strengthens us with every step. If this message has touched your heart in any way, take a moment to share it with someone who might need a spark of hope today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment sharing a moment that changed your life or a story that shaped who you are. May God bless you abundantly, and we can't wait to see you in our next video.